You don't have to depend on what they do or don't do in order to heal that wound. And that's what's just incredible about it. Our brains are built to heal themselves. And that frees you to show up in your relationships in a way that's like, this is how I want to be. And it doesn't depend on what you do or don't do.
What is internal family systems?
I feel like there are two ways to answer that. One is the straight up, this is the name for this particular modality of therapy developed by Richard Schwartz. And you can look into that historical line of where internal family systems came from. So that part of the answer is essentially that it emerged naturally from his work with his clients doing family systems work, and then realizing through that, oh, wait a minute, people are talking about part of me this and part of me that. What if the inner workings of the family system actually is also something that happens internally? And that just, it took off from there. But I don't really, when I'm working with someone, I'm not really thinking about internal family systems. And I've even kind of moved away from an effort to label things. This is a protector. This is a firefighter, I think more in terms of the inner world and someone else's journey to discover the parts of themselves, whatever they want to name them, whatever they find. And for some people, that's not the language that works for healing. So in other words, for me personally, internal family systems is less about following a model and adhering to a model, and more about facilitating someone's entry into their own inner world and being there for them as they encounter parts of themselves that, some parts live inside us hidden in pretty deep places.
Which I think you help people access through the guided inner work that you have on your YouTube channel, and also that you do one-on-one. Is that part of IFS?
In the trainings, there are specific steps for helping someone encounter a part, find a part, focus on the part, feel for it. So there are specific steps. But in working with people, I'm not thinking about the specific steps. I'm with them kind of from the outside where they are. And just naturally, as they're experiencing it, the next thing that needs to happen becomes apparent in that moment. Let's say on the outside, topmost layer of someone's life, like externally, this is what happens. When my partner gets really quiet, I get angry. I feel abandoned and I get angry. So there's the outer world life, topmost thing. Okay. I get really critical of my partner. I get angry. That's what I want to look at. And then the inner journey is finding out, where does that come from? It's not just the present moment interaction between this person and me. It's more an interaction between some part of me in my inner world that's carrying some wound and this current moment thing that's activating the wound, that's setting it off. So someone goes inside, they're asking that question, they sit with it, and suddenly maybe that person gets a sense of, or even internally sees, a child in bed at night who's been crying out and no one's come for them. And so in that moment, when someone sees that, I'm not thinking about what's the next IFS step. I'm actually imagining myself with eyes open where they are. That's the best I can do, from the outside, and offering guidance from there. Like, okay, what needs to happen next? And sometimes I'll just ask that, what needs to happen? And the person will know, oh, I need to go and get her out of that bed. I need to, whatever.
And would you say this is accessing the subconscious?
Yes.
And is that happening? Is accessing the subconscious a description of something that is happening in a physical brain chemistry way?
Yes.
Or is it more of a metaphor?
No, that's such a great question. It is a brain chemistry way. And if you're interested in learning about memory reconsolidation, because that's really what we're talking about, Dr. Tori Olds, Tori Olds, she has awesome YouTube videos that explain the neuroscience of, oh, this is what happens with it. You are going to a well-embedded neural network, right? The kid in bed feeling alone and abandoned, right? And when you encounter internally that little child in the bed at night, and you are feeling what that was again, you are then lighting up that neural network. It's like you're opening up the box. You're spreading it open so that it is felt again. But then as yourself, your deep self, your core, as you are feeling for that child in the bed, then you're lighting up a new neural network that is connecting that abandoned feeling with being held and cared for by self.
And this is how you work with your own neuroplasticity.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why, like we were saying earlier, let's say there's some kind of wound with my mother and she's dead. I can't heal that wound dependent on my mother apologizing or changing anything. That's true with anyone who's still living that you're in a relationship with. You don't have to depend on what they do or don't do in order to heal that wound. And that's what's just incredible about it. That's what I meant about, like, our brains are built to heal themselves. And that frees you to show up in your relationships in a way that's like, this is how I want to be. And it doesn't depend on what you do or don't do. I'm gonna be this.
That leads me to another question along the same lines, which is, I think we're starting to get into, why doesn't stuffing things down work? Because on some level, stuffing things down does work.
Yes.
I've done it.
Yes.
And on some level, bringing those things up is difficult and makes life more difficult. Mm-hmm. Can you explain why that's not the final level? That's only, there is a surface level in which stuffing works and pulling up hurts, but what's happening beyond that level?
Yeah, I think, sometimes I think about it in terms of timing. So for example, well, can you give me an example of a feeling or an inner experience that needs to be stuffed down? Do you mean like anger or?
Yeah, like let's say I'm having consistent struggles with somebody that I work with and they're really infuriating me.
Yeah.
One possibility would be to just swallow it, just say, you know what, go through the motions, don't feel it, don't say anything, just move on. And I think you would advise against that.
I think, okay, thank you. I think it is about timing to a certain degree. So you notice that this person, there's something about this person, the way they're engaging with you or whatever, that just activates you. And in the moment, at work, in your relationship with this person, you may have a part of you that is very adeptly kind of stepping in to suppress it for a reason in that context. There may be a damn good reason. I mean, you're in a sense, you're talking about why with trauma, why dissociation in the trauma is absolutely adaptive. It's happening for a damn good reason. And then if it keeps happening outside the context of the trauma, that's when going to it and opening it up and finding out, what is this really about? So with your anger example, it may be that in the context of a work relationship, this part of you that suppresses your anger is serving you. In a sense, it's protective. But then outside the context of work, that anger is hanging out in there like a little gremlin, It's like it has a reason to be there. It has a right to be there. That's when it's almost like, and here's where parts work, I think, can be helpful, because you can feel through, these different things are happening inside me. One part of me is suppressing, one part of me is enraged. So after work, right, some other context, then we might be saying, hey, could this be a time that the protective part is thanked? Thanks for your work. That really helped me. That helped me not get fired, whatever. That's important. Thank you. Ask it to ease back so that you can then turn to the very real feeling that was there. Because in the context of work, the anger was told that it needed to go away, right? It was told you're not wanted here. So I think the trouble happens when the feeling that was told to go away never gets welcomed home. Do you know what I mean?
And what do you think happens then?
And what happens then is it will force its way up in other contexts, other behaviors, other relationships.
And this is where you're blowing up at somebody for no reason or...
Right, yeah. Right. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you just lose your shit. Yeah. It's not because you're out of control. There's something terribly wrong with you. You need to work on your anger issues. Maybe it's because the anger gremlin, a very legitimate feeling that you had needed to be noticed, and I think that's the thing where you were saying earlier, well, sometimes the suppression works, and then to open it up, it just makes things worse. I think that having it felt, having it come up again is really uncomfortable. And if you can stay with it, you are telling it that it matters, and then it can ease back a bit. But if you're telling a feeling that it doesn't matter, that it's not wanted here, that you don't claim it, then it's like it's going to keep trying to get owned by you. And it will come up in these kind of misdirected ways.
Yeah, it sounds like in reality, stuffing just literally doesn't work. And even if it works in one area, such as at work, or it works for some period of time, you're good for a month, it's always going to come back in some way. And it can either come back in a kind of controlled, healthy way, in a therapeutic setting, or in a self-therapy session,
like
or
you
whatever.
Showing up for it and saying,
or
this is how I felt.
It can come back in a less healthy,
in a roundabout way, Yeah, exactly. And another example of that with anger would be, and this is a more extreme example, but let's say two brothers, older brother, younger brother, and a father who, for whatever reason, boy, we could go down a rabbit hole with this, but a father who is particularly hard on, even verbally abusive to the younger brother. The older brother is, let's say, we're talking like the older brother's 8 years old. So he doesn't have power to defend his younger brother. So his rage has to be, he might have a protector come in internally to dampen down his rage at his dad for being mean. In the mind of a 8-year-old, in that kind of vocabulary that an 8-year-old has, why is dad so mean? So 8 years old, the anger has to be tamped down. But the anger is still there inside that person. And then, we look to the 55-year-old man who maybe he's married now and has kids and easily blows up at them. Is it because he's just a bad person? Or is it more because there is anger in him that at the time it was there in childhood, it couldn't safely be expressed?
And this is kind of the hurt people.
Yeah, totally. Hurt people. I mean, it sounds incredibly simple. And yes, real.
If those hurt people don't find some healthy way to deal with whatever was
to deal with their own
injured
pain.
Or suppressed.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of times I think with anger, if you approach it, you're going to find behind it something younger that is afraid, overpowered, dominated, abused, something that's deeper than the anger. Anger is a response. You had asked this earlier, okay, well, what do you do? What's something I could do would be to see if you can find inside you who's really angry. What part of me is really angry here? And can I acknowledge it? We all just want to be acknowledged, including our parts. There's so much in simply acknowledging that, okay, yeah, this is how I actually feel.